everyone, and welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy. Tonight we have a couple decks that are a little bit outside of the usual meta for you. On the left we have AJ playing a deck that I like to call Loambond, and on the right we have Carlos playing a blue-white humans deck. So let's talk about this deck. Loambond, that I like to call it, or as AJ has put it, Temur Manabond, is all based around this card right here, Manabond, allowing you, during your discard phase, to put all the lands that are in your hand into play and then discard the rest of your hand. So a little bit like a Lion's Eye Diamond in the all-in aspect. You to get advantage from this, you need to be able to be okay with discarding your entire hand. Now, most of this deck is lands. It's 31 cards in this deck are land out of the 60, and most of them are one of. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think the most important ones to know are the actual 4 ofs, which I think is just Wasteland. So you are able to control your opponent's side of the board since this is such a non-basic land heavy format, and you have your own basics, being able to fetch them up with Misty Rainforest, but I think the most important part of this deck is to know that the Loam part of Loambond is, of course, for Life from the Loam. Being able to pull back all those land cards from your graveyard with Life from the Loam is going to allow you to be able to just grab all of these lands and your you can Life from the Loam, you can draw cards off of the Waterlogged Grove. So if you happen to be able to draw a card off of Waterlogged Grove and you have a Life from the Loam in your graveyard, then you can dredge and pull back Life from the Loam and replacing that effect with the Dredge 3. And you can just basically kind of keep going sometimes and end up with like 6 or 9 lands in your hand and then use that Manabond to put them all into play. This deck basically has 2 win conditions, one of them, of course, being the Dark Depths Thespian stage combo, where you get to make the 2020 avatar and attack with that. But that's been in the format for quite a long time, since it does have its own deck archetype. People are usually ready for it. So AJ does have the backup of a couple of creatures. Of course, you have Uro, Titans of Nature's Wrath, because this is a green-blue deck, and like I've said before, it would be a crime if you didn't run at least 3 of these. AJ has 4 of them in the deck. And this also runs a couple of Endurance that you can attack with over time. Field of the Dead, of course, is an excellent land in this deck since he has so many one-of lands. And then there's a couple of man lands. There's the Hall of Storm Giants, where you get that 7/7 with Ward 3. And there's also Lair of the Hydra that can become an XX creature till end of turn. Because if you're that late in the game, and you have, 20 of your 30 lands in play, you can turn this guy sideways, make him like an 18/18 or whatever, and attack and end the game that way. Also runs a couple gambles just to make sure that it can find what it needs, typically finding the Life from the Loam, because if you find that and you discard it, not a big deal, you just dredge it back to your hand. On the other side of the board, we have Carlos playing a deck that's been in the format for quite a while. This was a Modern deck for a long time. It was 5-color humans in Modern. Now, bringing it over here into Legacy, Blue-White Humans has been around mostly because of this card, Meddling Mage, which is also in Modern, and this card, Mother of Runes. Just unique to Legacy. We have seen this card quite a bit in Death and Taxes, of course, but being able to give protection from anything is extremely strong. Now, the deck has kind of fallen out of favor with the printing of Plague Engineer, kind of punishing those tribal decks, but this is still a very strong deck due to the inclusion of the Thalia's Lieutenant, which is a 4 of, giving +1/+1 to each other human you control when it enters the battlefield, and then it also gets counters when other humans come in. So this is, of course, primarily an Aether Vial deck, trying to get a bunch of advantage off of the fact that you can kind of just vial humans into play at end of turn, and getting around being able to cast them and have to wait to attack with them. It also runs this great 1-of Champion of the Parish, or 1 drop. This is a 4 of in this deck, and it grows for each human that you're playing. It's got a couple of other fun things here, but I will hold them off for the rest of the game. All right, enough talking about these decks. Let's get into the action. We have AJ starting with that Gamble off of a snow-covered basic. Now, with Gamble, you do not have to show what card you get, because you are going to randomly discard a card. Oh boy, look at that. It's a Life from the Loam. More than likely the card that AJ went and picked up And like I said in the intro, discarding Life from the Loam, not a huge deal, since he will be able to dredge it back to his hand anyways. In fact, probably being a situation he wants to be in, since he can put more cards into his graveyard and maybe pull back some lands. So there we go. We see the Dark Depths go to the grave and an Uro and a Once Upon a Time. Casting that, grabbing a couple of lands. Carlos just with the turn 1 Aether Vial, very strong play. We see a Cavern of Souls coming in for him, vialing in a keep saying that, a 1-drop. So we see that Champion of the Parish come down. 2 mana, Thalia. Oh, we're going to see Meddling Mage. So probably naming Life from the Loam? Maybe Punishing Fire? I am not sure. Oh yes, I remember they asked me about this, if they could see it on this stream. Should have edited this part out a little bit. And it's completely blank because our glare is still terrible. Oh well, such is life. Life goes on. Okay, so we see a Dredge. So I think Life from the Loam may have been named there, because if he dredged it back to his hand but did not cast it, it is a sorcery speed spell. Ooh, here we go. What is this guy? This is the Aether Channeler. Coming in, it is a modal card. You get to do one of these things. I think Carlos chose to draw a card with that end of the battlefield effect. And then just cracking across here, seeing a Thalia's Lieutenant. That's going to be pretty good. Giving +1/+1 to all these little human guys. Oh, that's not a Thalia's Lieutenant. That's a Charming Prince. So, yet another modal card. Flashing or blinking the Aether Channeler, probably getting to draw yet another card. Sorry for the interruption there. I didn't see what that land was. I did played a Blast Zone, which actually blew up both of Carlos's 1-drops there, getting rid of the Aether Vial and the Champion of the Parish before going back to Carlos's turn. And so that's some huge advantage that AJ has now, doing another gamble, discarding the Dark Depths, playing a Glacial Chasm, which is going to be really tough for Carlos to get through. Glacial Chasm, basically reducing all damage to you to 0. And you cannot attack. It looks like AJ let that go, though, because of the cumulative life upkeep trigger. Oh, no, he's still got it in play, because he has to sacrifice a land whenever it comes down. I'm not entirely certain what that land is. Might be a Boseiju. We see the Elite Spellbinder coming down, getting rid of the Life from the Loam out of his hand, making it cost 2 more, so AJ does have access to that Life from the Loam, but just not right now, because he doesn't have enough mana. Seeing another Spellbinder. AJ casting another Loam, so that's definitely not what that Meddling Mage is on. That Mage must be on Punishing Fire. So AJ now has an absurd amount of lands in hand. He's kind of at a point here where AJ can continue to just do nothing. Just loam back that Glacial Chasm every single turn and sacrifice it. Doesn't really matter to him as long as Carlos doesn't have interaction for that. Glacial Chasm. It looks like maybe AJ ran out of steam. Conceding game 1 and going to game 2 here. See the start of a Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time being free to cast if it is the first spell of your game. Otherwise costing 2. Checking the top 5 for a land or a creature. Grab that Grove of the Burn Willows. There's the Manabond. So Manabond, of course, during discard, going to put all of your lands in your hand to play and then discard the rest of your hand. AJ not too torn up about this since the rest of his hand was an Uro and a Punishing Fire. So we see AJ up to 3 lands in play. Now he can recur the Punishing Fire. Carlos having the Wasteland there. Blowing up that Grove of the Burn Willows, just drawing a land off the top. Not an incredible top deck. I think AJ is looking for the Life from the Loam here. There's a Misty Rainforest. Because once Manabond is in play, it's not the most useful thing. It does what it does, and then you just kind of sit around and hope that you draw that Life from the Loam. There are 4 in the deck, so, you know, AJ has at least 6 live draws here with the 4 gambles and the 4 Life from the Loam. I think he even has, oh, that might be the Flooded Strand in play right now. Or the Flooded Grove. No, it's definitely the Waterlogged Grove. Yeah, so, oh, but it's not in his hand. You can't, oh, no, you sacrifice it. So, yeah, you can draw the card. All right, so a Charming Prince. Killed the Champion of the Parish with the Punishing Fire. There's the Life from the Loam. AJ very happy to draw that. Does a little clap for himself there. Getting to play all of the lands that not only he drew from the last couple turns, but also the 3 that he loamed back to hand. And then had to discard the Punishing Fire. Still not a big deal. We're seeing a Recruiter of the Guard from Carlos. Gonna go and find something. Recruiter being able to basically pull any human out of his deck. The text on the card actually says toughness 2 or less. So he's in a tough spot here because you'd want to name Life from the Loam to get him to stop doing this. But you're going to have to name Punishing Fire or else he'll just kill the Meddling Mage. So a double fetch, 2 Misty Rainforests is going to get 2 forests. 1 normal forest and 1 snow-covered forest. Their life total's just off screen. It looks like Carlos is at 21 at least. Sacrificing, this is all on Carlos's discard phase, or end phase, I think. Yep. So now AJ trying to decide, okay, I guess I'll loam. Pull back all these lands, one of them being Field of the Dead. Oh, casting Uro out of the grave. The big boy himself. Titan of Nature's Wrath, 6/6 when it enters the battlefield. Explore and also gain 3 life. So Field of the Dead coming in here. Field of the Dead, whenever you have 7 or more unique card names within your lands, then you get zombies for each time a land enters the battlefield. So it looks like AJ already has 3 zombies in play. Here's a Thalia that can at least block 1 zombie. We're seeing Swords to Plowshares, gonna gain AJ 6 life. Thalia is going to enter the battlefield after a couple of thoughts, and then we're going to cast Thalia's Lieutenant. This will be useful. So this is going to grow the whole team. +1/+1. Making it so that at least the Meddling Mage and the Charming Prince can actively block these zombies. So Carlos is in an okay position for now. Although the problem is that AJ has no intention of stopping making zombies. So paying 3 for that Life from the Loam, the Thalia tax paid. Pulling back 3 lands to hand. Using the draw trigger from the Waterlogged Grove to replacement effect Dredge. 1, 2, 3. Casting Life from the Loam once again, getting 3 more lands. 2 more lands, because he's all out of lands in his grave. And then we're going to Manabond at end of turn to drop 5 lands into play, 5 more zombies. And things are not looking as good for Carlos anymore. Wasteland is going to wasteland the wasteland. And because it was tapped, Carlos does not get to wasteland in response. Mother of Runes coming into play. Pro Black is good, but when you're staring down 8 2/2 zombies, not as fun. Since AJ is just going to do exactly what he did last game. Or last turn. Just wanted to see what that next dredge was going to be. Carlos concedes the game, and we are on to game 3 here. So an Aether Vial on turn 1 and a Once Upon a Time for AJ. Showing that Uro boy. A Waterlogged Grove. Instead of Uro, I guess? Seeing Karakas come down for AJ. Good counter for Merit Lage. Oh, this is pretty good. So we see Champion of the Parish come down into a Thalia's Lieutenant, which is going to give it another +1/+1 counter. So turn 2 here, already have the 3/3 and the 1/1. AJ with a very rough start. White and colorless mana. Meddling Mage. Maybe naming Punishing Fire? No red in play. A second Thalia's Lieutenant, and AJ concedes the game. That is huge aggro damage, and he just can't get beyond that. So match goes to Carlos. Well, that was a pretty fun set of games there, but it looked like at the very end of the match, Game 3 shows that sometimes the aggro deck can just go really hardcore right in, and the mid-range deck goes, well, I guess I'll die. And that's the end of the match. Thanks as always for sticking around through the credits here. If you are still here and watching this the day it comes out, we are live streaming tonight. It is the first of the month, and we are going to be doing live stream. It will be myself and Alex King, also known as the Enduring Idealist on Twitch. So if you are a fan of that guy and you like these videos, then come watch us talk to each other about decks that are playing against each other tonight. I forgot to mention the time for the live stream. It will be 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you are interested in either of these deck lists, they are in the description of the video. You can just scroll right down there, and it will also tell you what to skip to if you don't want to listen to my intros anymore. Thanks as always to Spellhole Games for allowing us to record in their play space. And if you haven't already, why don't you consider subscribing to the channel so that you can get this content as soon as it comes out. And we'll see you next time here on Tuesday Night Legacy. Bye!